Chapter 1. You are listening at FameTV.info. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation Shenglong Kingdom, Luoxing City. On the city police headquarters comprehensive training field, flags were waving, and there was a sea of people. A group of new police officers had just passed the assessment and they were in a single file, waiting to be inspected by their superiors before they took their oaths. Su Jianyu was one of the officers. He was standing ramrod straight in the group on the left, at the front of the second row. They're taking so long to start. Hurry up. The sun was shining high above Su Jianyu's head, making him sweat profusely. A few months ago, Su Jianyu was transmigrated to this parallel world and eventually became a student at the police academy. He didn't want to end up as a patrol officer who managed household registration or warned citizens of fraud after graduation, so he put in an ungodly amount of effort to go through the ESU Emergency Service Team selection process. This is the romance of men. A real man should be an ESU member. After about 10 minutes, the silhouettes of the leaders finally appeared on the viewing platform. Su Jianyu and his team, who were the closest to the viewing platform, looked at a slim and valiant figure and whispered to each other, "Isn't that Yan Tingyun, our senior?" "Who? You haven't heard of senior sister Yan Tingyun? You've wasted your time in the police academy. Wow, she's really beautiful. I don't even dare to look at her directly. I feel like I'm out of her league." From the people beside her, Su Jianyu learned that the beautiful police officer on the viewing platform was named Yan Tingyun. She was widely recognized as the prettiest police beauty since the establishment of the police academy. Not only was she extremely beautiful, but her professional ability was also outstanding. She emerged as a senior instructor of the municipal police force at a young age. In layman's terms, it was equivalent to being the coach of all the police officers in Luoxing City. Yan Tingyun stood out in a crowd and naturally, she had many admirers and suitors. Despite that, no one had caught the eye of the policewoman so far. This time, apart from attending our swearing-in ceremony, Officer Yan will also participate in the upcoming drills. The drills the new police officers were talking about referred to a series of regular conditioning exercises after the swearing-in ceremony. The purpose of the drills was for the police force to demonstrate the results of their training. Additionally, it was for new police officers like Su Jianyu to observe the senior police officers so that they could learn from them. This is just a brief exercise. Realistically speaking, it's more of a formality. The comrade standing next to Su Jianyu whispered, "All the subjects of the exercise are old and commonplace, practiced hundreds of times a day. Whether it's the role of a gangster or a police officer, it's all muscle memory. There's nothing new. I don't care whether it's a formality or not. I just want it to be over fast. The weather is so hot." Su Jianyu, who was just standing there, really wanted to reach up and wipe the sweat off his forehead. He raised his head slightly and looked at the spectator stand. At this moment, Yan Tingyun was looking down as well. Their eyes met. "She's truly beautiful." Su Jianyu stared at Yan Tingyun, not feeling embarrassed at all. On the other hand, Yan Tingyun's face felt a little hot from Su Jianyu's stare. His gaze lingered on Su Jianyu's face for a second or two before he hurriedly turned away. "This junior is a little interesting." Yan Tingyun fanned her slightly red cheeks with her hand. "He's the first one who's dared to stare at me for so long." After all the leaders were in position, the swearing-in ceremony finally began. Yan Tingyun walked to the front of the viewing platform, adjusted her microphone, raised her right fist, and looked sharply at the new police officers below the stage. The gem of a senior police officer attracted the attention of everyone on the training ground. "I solemnly swear. I solemnly swear." As Yan Tingyun said this, the junior brothers and sisters below the stage followed suit. "As a police officer of the Shenglong Kingdom, and I devote myself to the noble duties of a police officer." The short oath was packed with energy. The sound of the tsunami-like oath made people's scalps go numb, and goosebumps covered their bodies. It made them pumped and excited. After the oath ceremony came to an end, it was time for the drills. Attention. Everyone turn right. Under the command of the instructor, Su Jianyu and the others formed a semi-circular formation, sit down. Everyone sat on the ground while Su Jianyu took his place in front. The first subject of the exercise was kidnapping and anti-kidnapping. The senior police officers would come over and do a demonstration for Su Jianyu and the other rookies. Damn, it can't be. Officer Yen will be doing the demonstration. Looking in the direction that everyone was pointing at, Su Jianyu saw Yan Tingyun, who was wearing a training uniform, walking towards them with vigorous steps. Wow, she's gorgeous. Looking at her from such a close distance, she's even more beautiful. Huff, puff, huff, puff. Some people even began to take deep breaths to calm themselves down. Greetings. As Su Jianyu and the others settled down, Yan Tingyun's beautiful eyes swept across the crowd, making eye contact with her made many people's hearts skip a beat. I need someone to pretend to be a robber to kidnap me, and then I'll show you how to escape. Is there anyone willing to volunteer to be the robber? One would think that everyone would fight for the opportunity to cooperate with Officer Yan, but what greeted Yan Tingyun was a collective silence. No one raised their hands. Being a robber was a thankless job. Not only was it painful to have all kinds of anti-kidnapping skills used on one's body, but Yan Tingyun was also very strict. If the person did not act accordingly for the drill, they would be reprimanded. Obviously, no one wanted to be humiliated in public, no one. Yan Tingyun raised her voice. However, no one took the initiative to step forward. If there's no one, then I'll just call someone out randomly. Just as Yan Tingyun was about to randomly pick someone, Su Jianyu, who was sitting in the front row, raised his hand. I'll do it. Hearing this, Yan Tingyun and the others looked over and saw Su Jianyu standing up in the crowd with a determined gaze. It's him. Yan Tingyun remembered the look Su Jianyu had when their eyes met. Good heavens, Su Jianyu really doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. If he were to partner up with Yan Tingyun, wouldn't he be sending himself to his death? He's still young. The group of people shook their heads and waited for Su Jianyu to embarrass himself. In actuality, no one knew that Su Jianyu was not someone who would go through all that trouble for nothing. The reason why he wanted to participate was that the system had just awakened. He wanted to get a reward. Listen to the full novel at FameTV.info, direct link in the description.